It's the International Soccer Preview. We are Soccer Files Canada. Welcome to Series 25, looking at the players of Euro 2024. This episode is looking at the players of the Czech Republic. Here we go. Hello, and welcome to the International Soccer Preview by Soccer Files Canada. I'm Kevin, and this is Series 25 on the players of the 2024 Euro Cup. This episode covers Czech Republic's players. We're doing this media cast in two parts. Part one here is a look at the candidates for the squad and their likelihood of making it. We examine the participation of players in games over the recent period and a couple of other factors to categorize them into definite, likely, possible, and so on. Part two will come out when the squad lists are released and the final squad selected. At that time, we'll go back over the list that we create here and see who made it and who didn't. And we'll also cover things like injuries and surprise selections. So this episode will have three sections. In section one, we look at some general information on the team. Section two, we cover the main candidates in each position and their likelihood of making it. And in section three, we summarize and have a few orders of concluding business. Let's begin then with section one, some general information on the team. And we begin with significant retirements over the past while. And we have Vladimir Darida. I guess this will be kind of since 2020, the Euro Cup that they participated in. Vladimir Darida is a central midfielder and was captain of the team. He was with them from 2012 to 21 with 76 caps and 8 goals. He's actually still active in club play with Aris Thessalonica in Greece. There, and he was part of all of their recent tournaments, the 2012, 16, and 20 Euro Cups there, and last appeared for the national team in Euro 2020. So Vladimir Darida well off the squad now. And I'll just say that we actually do have a lot of candidates who aren't quite veterans, but they're, around 30 or 40 caps with the teams. So we're going to introduce them and actually just finish with a list of names because they're not kind of true veterans retiring, but it does kind of speak to significant loss of experience if we add them all together over the last little while. But we'll do a couple of more names and then use them as kind of examples. So next we would have Jakub Jankto. He's a midfielder, was with the team just from 2017 to 22, but did amass 45 caps and 4 goals, and he was a starter in Euro 2020. Actually got into a little trouble refusing to take a breathalyzer after being pulled over for drinking and driving. So anyway, he last appeared for the team in June 2022. And next we have Thomas Callas. He has 31 caps for the national team from 2012 to 2021 and was a starter in Euro 2020. So those are the kind of players, again, not really veterans, but Thomas Callas. And from now, I'll just kind of list the players. Sorry, I forgot to put Jankto on the list there if you're on the YouTube watching. We have Pavel Kaderabek, 48 caps and a substitute in Euro 2020. Thomas Peckhardt, 25 caps, a substitute in 2012 and 2020 Euro Cups there. Michael Kremenchik, 35 caps and a substitute in Euro 2020. Matej Vidra, 46 caps, also part of the 2020 squad. And 2 more, Jan Borel, 27 caps, and Andrei Salustka. So as I said, quite a few names quite a bit of experience. Lost Salusta was a starter in Euro 2020. So again, they have had 4 years to kind of absorb those losses, most of them retiring, at least more than a year ago. So one of the themes, I suppose, for Czech Republic is the need for renewal after losing that many players. Let's move on to their club affiliations. So we do have a couple, again, players like that. You wouldn't exactly call them veterans because they only have 40 or so caps. The only one with more than that that's still on the squad is Captain Thomas Souček. He has 69 caps, and he's with, I would say, a mid-level club. So we don't really have any players playing with top clubs outside of Czech Republic, but a mid-level club. Both he and Thomas Souček and defender Vladimir Šufal with 42 caps are with West Ham. And then we have a couple of players with Bayer Leverkusen who are, again, not veterans, but more experienced. Adam Hložek and Patrick Schick, both of them attacking players. And yes, most, I would say about 2/3 of the players play with the top clubs in the Czech Republic. That will be Slavia Prague, the Sparta Prague, Victoria Pilsen, those kind of clubs, Mlada Boleslav. And again, the representative clubs would be like Sturm Graz in Austria, Hoffenheim in Germany, Fiorentina in Italy is another kind of veteran with Antonin Barak there. Okay, well, I hope I've given an impression. That's our main intention here. In terms of up-and-coming players, we've seen a couple of teams with youngsters with top clubs. We don't really see that on Czech Republic. I'd say Matej Kovar's goalkeeper with only 2 caps with Bayer Leverkusen is as close as they get. So unless some of these players move to bigger clubs, maybe outside of Czech Republic, we don't really see any particularly promising players. I don't mean to be insulting. Okay, that's it for club affiliations. Let's move on to recent games. And so we're looking at the period from the start of 2023. Czech Republic played 12 games in that time. 4 of them were friendlies, and the last 2 were under a new manager who we'll talk about soon. And a kind of an interesting thing is that we have about 3, or I think it's 3 players, some of those more experienced players that we mentioned, not playing in the last 3 games. And the new manager also did bring in a lot of new players for those March 2024 games. He was lucky to be able to start with a couple of friendlies so that he could be experimentative, but we're not sure if that means those experienced players are off the team, having missed the last 3 matches, or not. So we'll be interested in the June friendlies to see if they come back. In terms of international games, Czech Republic has participated in some international tournaments over the period, about half of them. Their last World Cup appearance was in 2006. They haven't made a World Cup since then, but they've been consistently making the Euro Cup since 2008. So 2008, 12, 16, and 20, they've participated in Euro Cups. We'll probably only go back to about 2016 in the players' history there. And for their club history, we'll go back 1 to 3 clubs just to give an impression of who they played for. All right, moving on to formations. They've used only 3 formations over this period, but they are quite different from each other. some teams have toyed with this 3-2-2-2-1 formation. Czech Republic has more than toyed with it. They've used it in 5 of the 12 games, so 42% of the time, and it is their most used formation. Used almost not quite as much is the 3-4-1-2 formation, which they've used 33% of the time. And then 25% of the time, or 3 of the 12 games, is the 4-2-3-1 formation. And so we see then that 75% of the time they're using a 3-man central defense with the wingers pushed up, with the left back and right back pushed up to a winger position, and only 25% of the time using the more standard 4-man backline with 2 central defenders, a left wing and a right wing. In the middle, actually, with these 3 formations, it's not changing that much. So the biggest changes in defense. So once again, the 3-2-2-2-1, 42% of the time. 3-4-1-2, 33%, and 4-2-3-1, 25%. That all might be rendered meaningless with the new manager coming in, but he did use the last 2 of those formations, the 4-2-3-1 and the 3-4-1-2. So he too experimented with the 3-man defense at the end there. Okay, that is the formations, and then we look finally at their upcoming games, their friendlies. So we have on June 7th, they will be playing Malta. However, that's not in Czech Republic, as the visual seems to suggest. It's actually in Austria. And then on June 10th, they do play at home to North Macedonia. So they've chosen fairly light opponents. Again, the manager knew there, so has some decisions to make prior to the Cup. That's the end of section 1, and now we move on to section 2, where we start looking at the candidates. But the first one we'll look at is actually the managerial position. So we have the outgoing manager Jaroslav Silhavi and the incoming manager Ivan Hasek. I'll only give a bio of the new one, Ivan Hasek. He was a player for, Czech Republic, but mostly for Czechoslovakia. He had 57 caps and 6 goals for Czechoslovakia and was captain of the team. He played from 1984 to 1993 and was part of the World Cup 1990 squad. He did play 1 game for Czech Republic in 1994, but that was kind of past his time. As a manager, it's his 2nd time with the national team. He briefly managed in 2009, just for a short time. He has also, he's coming off being manager of the Lebanon national team from 2021 and 2022, and has actually managed several teams in the Middle East, in the UAE. He's managed several teams. In Europe, he's managed just Saint Etienne in France in 2006 and 7. So he's been over in the Middle East for quite some time. Okay, yeah, sorry, no, I missed a couple of details. He also coached the Gabon national team and Vissel Kobe in Japan. That was earlier in his career. And he did coach Strasbourg, also a European team in France there. Okay, so Ivan Hasek leading them through this tournament as the manager, but let's summarize the position. So Silhavi was the manager from 2018 to 2023, so a fairly long run with the team as far as managers go. Silhavi brought Czech Republic to the Euro Cup in 2020, and in World Cup 2022 qualifying, they finished a narrow 3rd behind Wales, but their Nations League play got them to the playoffs. So reached the playoffs, but there in the first of 2 rounds, they lost in extra time to Sweden. In Nations League, he had led them to promotion in 2021, promotion to Group A, but in 2022 they were demoted back to League B. Silhavi stayed on through Euro 2024 qualifying and led them to a second place finish and automatic qualifying. However, the campaign had been a bit unconvincing. They were bested by group winner Albania and they tied Moldova. It seems like that tie with Moldova particularly annoyed them. Silhavi was criticized heavily during the campaign, and he declined to extend his contract. That's how it's put. So, however that works. But it does look like he decided to leave the team. So Ivan Hasek came in January 2024. So after qualifying was complete, and he had both friendlies in March 2024 to work with the team. That's all the time he's had. So as we see, and as we will see, he's brought in, tried out quite a few new players in that time. Okay, let's move on to the players themselves, and we begin with goalkeepers. And we have two likely candidates. The first one is Matej Kovar, and the second is Jindřich Stanek. We also have a possible candidate in Jiří Pavlenka. And a couple of other possible candidates actually too, Aleš Mandus and Vítězslav Jaros, and Thomas Vaklik is seemingly off the squad. He did play during this period, and Thomas Kubek also seemingly off the squad. Now, you'll see that the color of the names, if you're watching the YouTube, is different. The light gray means they don't have any tournament experience. The black means they're still active and have tournament experience, and then the mid-grey you see with Thomas Kubek means they're retired from the national team. They've been off for long enough that we consider them retired, and they may be retired from soccer altogether. Okay, let's look at the candidates. Matej Kovar. So our two likely candidates have no tournament experience here. Kovar is 24 years old and got his first cap here in 2024. He plays for Bayer Leverkusen in Germany since 2023 and was with Manchester United in England prior to that. He did have a single appearance on the bench way back in 2021, but didn't appear for 2 years after that, and returned in October 2023 and started one game. He started the last game there and was on the bench for 5 others. So the new manager giving him a tryout, but he has been called up for the last 6 games. So Matej Kovar, a likely candidate. I maybe should have put Jindřich Stanek ahead of him. Stanek is 28 years old and has 9 caps for the national team since 2021. He plays for Slavia Prague in Czech Republic since 2024, Victoria Pilsen before that. And he started 4 of their games over the recent period and was on the bench for 4. He was injured for 2 and not selected for 2. So he does seem a bit more likely than Kovar there, so I'll just move him up on the list. But both of them likely candidates to make the final squad. Okay, next we have Jiří Pavlenka as a possible candidate. He is 32 years old and has 21 caps since 2016. He plays for Werder Bremen in Germany since 2017, so with them for a long time. He was not part of the 2020 Euro Cup or the 2016 one, even though he was around at that time. For the 2020 Euro, he was selected for the final squad, but then injured shortly before the tournament. So Jiri Pavlenka, no tournament experience. He has started 5 of their 12 games over the recent period and was on the bench for 3, but then not selected for the last 4 matches. So we're going to see this with some of their more experienced players. He's probably the most experienced, viable goalkeeper here, and not selected recent times. So we'll have to see what's going on with that. Next, we have Alice Mandus, and he is 32 years old with just 4 caps since 2020, and he plays for Slavia Prague in Czech Republic. He was on the roster for the 2020 Euro Cup, just on the bench though, didn't see any action, and also off the team for a little while. He returned after a 16-month absence in October of 2023 and started 1 of their remaining 6 games. He was on the bench for 3, but not selected for the last 2 matches. Okay, Vidislav Jaros, our third possible candidate, has no caps for the national team. He's on the roster for Liverpool in England since 2020, but has been loaned out to Sturm Graz in Austria since 2024, and Stockport County in England. Much smaller club there than Liverpool. Jaros got his first appearance in March 2024 for the national team. He didn't start either of the 2 remaining games, but he was on the bench for both of them. So that is his claim to being a possible candidate. We have Thomas Vaklik, also here, and he seems to be off the squad. He's 35 years old and has been with the team since 2012, 54 caps, and he was the starter in Euro 2020 and a backup keeper in Euro 2016. And he did actually start 1 of their 12 games over this period and was on the bench for 3. But he has been off the team or not selected for the last 8 matches. So again, losing veterans all over the place here. Thomas Vaklik doesn't seem to be a candidate here. Finally, we have Thomas Kubek, also a backup keeper in both 2016 and 2020 Euro Cup. Excuse me. But he hasn't been selected for the last 6 matches. So he's not so much a veteran, though, just 12 caps for the national team. But he has been there since 2016. And he last appeared in 2020. He was on the bench for 4 games in this period and not selected for 8, including the last 6. So yet another more experienced player, at least in terms of his time with the national team, that has dropped off the squad. Okay, let's summarize the position then. It was Pavlenka who started 5 of the first 7 games, and then he was replaced by Vaklik, and then Stanek in the 2 friendlies during the first half of the period. He didn't appear after that. We saw that both he and Vaklik dropped off the team. Stanek then started 3 of the last 5 games, and coming in for 1 game each was Mandus and Kovar. So it seems like Stanek is the most likely at this point, but things very much up in the air in the goalkeeper situation. Okay, let's move on to defenders and central defense. We start with definite candidate Thomas Hollis. He is actually coded as a right back and does play there, but in this period he has been in central defense more and fits into the narrative here. We have possible candidate, likely candidate David Zimmer, and then we have likely candidate Ladislav Krejci. For possible candidates, we have several: Jacob Brabeck, Patricio Stronati, Martin Wittek, Thomas Vicek, and Robin Hranak. And then we have a couple of players who seem to be off the squad. Vaclav Jamelka. I think because we have so many candidates, I'll just mention them by name, or maybe one detail. Jamelka last appearing in March 2023, I should say. We have Jacob Jugas, not selected for the last 6 matches. Thomas Kalas, last appeared in November 2021, so well off the team. And Andrei Salustka, also last appearing in 2021. I put both of those on the list because they were starters in Euro 2020, so more just to let people know where they've gone if they're wondering about them. Let's look at the names here. So a lot of candidates. That's partly because they have used a 3-man defense in 75% of the game. So we're actually filling 3 roles, essentially. So Thomas Holes is 31 years old. He has 27 caps and 2 goals since 2020 and plays for Slavia Prague in Czech Republic. He was a substitute in Euro 2020, but gained a starting position after game 1. And in the present period, the recent period, he started 9 of their 12 games, subbed in for 1, was on the bench for 1, and not selected for 1 match. So Thomas Holes looking not only like a definite selection, but a starter as well. David Zima is 23 years old. He has 20 caps and 1 goal since 2021. He's also with Slavia Prague in Czech Republic. It's actually his 2nd stint with them. He returned in 2024, having spent 3 years with Torino in Italy. He was selected for the Euro 2020 with Zima, but didn't see any action in that tournament. Over the recent period, he has started 5 of their 12 games and was on the bench for 3. He was missing for 4 games, but 2 of those were due to injury. So David Zima, a likely candidate here. Ladislav Krejci is actually a defensive midfielder. He's coded that way. And he actually did play 1 game as a defensive midfielder, but has played more games in central defense during this period. So Krejci is 25 years old and has 8 caps and 2 goals. So a pretty good scoring record for a defensive player. And that is since 2022. He plays for Sparta Prague in Czech Republic since 2019. And he actually was off the team for 9 months. He was out with 3 separate injuries there. He came back in March 2023 and started 7 of their remaining 12 games, as well as being on the bench for 1. He seems a bit injury prone because he was injured during this period for 2 matches and not selected for 2 matches, but that was near the beginning. So Ladislav Krejci looking like a likely candidate here. Jacob Brabak is 31 years old. He has 41 caps and 2 goals since 2016 and plays for Aris Thessalonika in Greece since 2021. And he was also selected for Euro 2020, just appeared as a sub in game 5 there. And since the start of 2023, he has started 7 of their 12 games, Jacob Brabak, and he's subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 1. However, he's one of these players, one of the more experienced players who was not selected for the last 3 matches. And we're going to see in the summary that he seemed an important part of the defense early on in the period, and suddenly is gone for the last 3 matches. So is he gone? Is he gone for good? Will we expect to see him in the cup? Well, we're not sure. We have him as just a possible candidate. at this point. Okay, Patricio Stronati is 29 years old with 4 caps and 1 goal since 2022. He plays for Puskás Akademika in Hungary since 2021, and was not selected for the tournament, even though I think he appeared on the bench for the team prior to Euro 2020. Anyway, over the recent period, Stronati has started 2 of their 12 games and was on the bench for 4, but not selected for half of the games. Martin Vitek is next. He is just 21 years old, and he has 1 cap since 2023, playing for Sparta Prague in Czech Republic since 2020. And he got his first appearance in March 2023 and started 1 of the games and was on the bench for 5, but was with the under-21 team for the other 6. And really that basically means not selected. Because they could call him up to the senior team. And his absences include the last 2 matches. So Martin Vitek, possible level here. Thomas Weissek is, it's Thomas Vulsek. He's 23 years old and also just 1 cap for the national team. His was in March 2024. That was his first appearance for the team, and he started 1 of the games and was on the bench for the other. So newly called up by the new manager. Same is true with Robin Hranak, our last of the possible candidates. He's 24 years old and got his first appearance in March 2021, also starting 1 of the 2 games and on the bench for the other. So Robin Hranak. Garnered interest from the new manager. Okay, that is it. Wow, what a lot of players. Not every position will be this busy, but as we said, it could be 3 players. Let's summarize the position. The threesome in 3 of the first 7 games was Brabec in the center, defensive midfielder Krekci, who we moved to here, on the left side, and on the right side, Holes. And as I said, that was used in 3 of the first 7 games. Actually, in the early period, Brabec was the most consistent starter. But strangely, he was gone when it was a 2-man defense, and it was Krekci and Holes as a pair. That is simplifying things, though, because several players came in and out otherwise, and Zima was the one most often coming in and out. We also have 4 players who saw single appearances, including 2 of the 3 players in the central defense in the last game. So things kind of up in the air here, especially because of the new manager. Okay, let's go to the left back position. And this should be a bit simpler because it's just 1 position. However, that position does become a left wing position in the 3-man defense, which is 3/4 of the time. In most cases, it is the left back or the right back that fills that left wing or right wing role. But on one time on each side, it wasn't one of the players we'll meet here, but a more attacking player. But for the most part, it is these players who push up to the winger position. So on the left, we have a likely candidate in David Jurasek. And he's not to be mixed with Matej Jurasek, who we'll meet soon. We also have a possible candidate in Jaroslav Zeleny and a player who seems to be off the squad, Jan Borel. He last appeared in Euro 2020, but he was a starter there. So yet another kind of veteran or experienced player that they've lost, because he's only 33 years old. Jan Borel. Okay, let's go to the likely candidate, David Jurasek. He's 23 years old, and he has just 7 caps for the national team since 2023. He plays for Benfica in Portugal, so maybe we should have mentioned him as one of the up-and-coming players for Czech Republic in Section 1. He is on the roster of Benfica, but actually loaned to Hoffenheim in Germany since 2024. And Jurasek got his first appearance in March 2023 and started 6 of the remaining 12 games, as well as subbing in for 1. He was on the bench for 2 and absent for 3 matches, but 2 of those were due to injury. So David Jurasek, a likely candidate. Yaroslav Zeleny is a possible candidate. He's 31 years old and just 10 caps for the national team. He joined quite late in his career in 2020. He's with Sparta Prague in the Czech Republic. And he started 3 of their 12 games since the start of 2023, subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 4. And 4 matches that he wasn't selected for. So this year he's gotten a better look in than usual, because he didn't seem a consideration for Euro 2020 there, despite being despite having appeared for the national team prior to that tournament. Okay, finally, Jan Borrell. No, we've talked about him last appearing in the Euro Cup, so we move on to the summary. So Jurasek had a firm hold on the position for the first 3 games at least, and he did return to the position near the end. But Zeleny started 3 times, and the right back Dudera, who we're going to meet right away here, started twice. So not such a firm grip on the position as he had at the beginning, David Jurasek, but still probably the most likely candidate over here. Okay, on the right side, and I realized I've just put the names in the graphic in the wrong spot. So I'll just move those, and now we're ready to go. On the right side, we have the player I just mentioned, David Dudera, as a likely candidate. And actually over here is Thomas Holish, because he's coded as a right back, but we talked about him in central defense there. The other candidate over here is possible candidate Sufal, Vladimir Sufal. Possible, you might say. Good heavens. And yes, it is possible. You'll see why soon. We also have Lucas Mazopust as a possible candidate. And then we have Pavel Kaderabek, one of those more experienced players who have retired in recent years from the national team. He didn't appear after Euro 2020 there, and we talked about him at the beginning. So, sorry, we do have one other possible candidate who I missed. That is Adam Gabriel. So 3 possible candidates there. Let's look at David Dudera, the likely candidate. He's 25 years old with 8 caps and 1 goal since 2023, and plays for Slavia Prague in Czech Republic since 2022. Dudera got his first appearance in March of 2023 and started 5 of their remaining 12 games. He subbed in for 3 and was on the bench for 2. So just 2 matches that he was not called up for. David Dudera, we see him starting actually as a left back and a right back, even though he's coded as a right back. Next, Vladimir Sufal. He's 31 years old with 40 caps and 1 goal since 2017, and plays for West Ham in England since 2020, Slavia Prague before that. He was a starter in Euro 2020, and you may be surprised to know he did start 6 of the games in this period and was on the bench for 1, but he was not selected for 5 others, including the last 3 matches. So once again, one of those more experienced players who didn't appear for the last 3 matches, so we have to put him as a possible candidate here. The next one is also possible, Luka Mazupast. He is actually coded as a right midfielder, or even a right attacking midfielder, but we're moving him back here because this is where he has shown up in his starts. Mazupast is 31 years old, and he has 34 caps and 2 goals since 2018 with Slavia Prague in the Czech Republic. Since 2019, he was a starter in Euro 2020, but then he's been off the team for a bit. He returned after a 1.5 year absence in September of 2023 and started 2 of their remaining 8 games. He was subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 3. And he was absent for the last 2 matches through injury, though he has recovered since. So Lucas Mazupast, a possible candidate. And finally, newcomer Adam Gabriel, 23 years old, and he plays for Midtjylland in Denmark since 2023, and he got his first appearance under the new manager here in March 2024 and started 1 of their remaining 2 games and was on the bench for the other. So Adam Gabriel, kind of a late entry to the fray here. And let's talk about the position. So Soufal was the most consistent starter among all of these candidates, but it's only half the games that he started. Dudera, who we saw starting twice on the left, started 3 times here. And Mazupast, coded as a right midfielder, started twice. In the case of Mazupast, it was a right winger role both times that he started. In the last game, it was newcomer Gabriel. So it's too soon to say whether he's kind of challenging for the position or perhaps a manager just trying him out. But the concerning thing here is Soufal being off the squad for the last 3 games. Not the last time we're going to see that. Okay, that is it for defense. Let's move on upfield to the defensive midfield position. And actually, despite the variety of formations that Czech Republic have used, this is consistently a 2-man position. So, a little break from the complexity there. Let's look at the candidates. We have Thomas Souček as a definite candidate in defensive midfield. And we have actually Ladislav Krejci is a defensive midfielder and did play here once, but moved to central defense because he played there more. We've talked about him. So the next one on the list is Alex Kral. He's a possible candidate. We'll get to central midfielders soon, but let's look at these 2 defensive midfielders. So Captain Thomas Souček is 29 years old, and he has 68 caps and 12 goals for the Czech Republic. I think I said 69 in the intro, but let's just accept that these things happen. Thomas Souček, been with the team since 2016. He's with West Ham in England, so just like Soufal with West Ham in England since 2020. He played for Slavia Prague and Czech Republic before that, and he was a starter in the Euro 2020 Euro Cup. I guess the Euro 2016 came too soon for him. That was his first year with the national team. But anyway, an important player in Euro 2020, and he was the top scorer for his team in 2022 World Cup qualifying, 3 of their 14 goals there, so has some attacking prowess, as West Ham fans will know. Also top scorer in Euro qualifying with 3 of their 12 goals. Wow. And wow again, because he started all 12 games since the start of 2023, the only player on the squad to do that. So crucially important to them, Thomas Souček. and a definite candidate. The possible candidate is Alex Kral. He's 26 years old, and he has 39 caps and 2 goals since 2019. And he's with Spartak Moscow in Russia since 2019, but he was loaned out to Union Berlin in Germany since 2023. And he also played for West Ham in England. He was with them on loan from 2021 to 2022. Alex Kral was a starter in Euro 2020, but he lost his position after game 1 and was just a substitute after that. And over the recent period, Kral has started 3 of their 12 games, as well as subbing in for 2 and being on the bench for 1. However, he was not selected for 6 matches, including the last 2. So another experienced player not showing up at the end here. Alex Kral. Before we summarize the position, we'll actually look at the central midfield candidates, and there aren't that many of them. We have a definite candidate in Mikhail Sadilek, not to be confused with, hang on, that's coming right up. Mikhail Sadilek, well, not to be confused with possible candidate Lucas Sadilek here. And we also have Peter Sevcic, seemingly off the squad. He was a substitute in the Euro 2020 Cup and actually gained a starting position in that cup, but last appeared for the team in March 2023, so disappearing at the beginning of this period. We also have the player we mentioned as retired in the beginning, and he really is retired. It's Vladimir Darida. He's been off the team since Euro 2020. Okay, that's it for candidates. Let's look at Michael Sadilek, the first of them, and the definite candidate. Sadilek is, well, I'm going to say Michael Sadilek because so as to distinguish him from Lucas Sadilek. 24 years old is Michael Sadilek since 2021, and 23 caps and 1 goal. He plays for 20 in the Netherlands and has played for PSV Eindhoven in the Netherlands also. He was part of Euro 2020, but just as a substitute, and he has started 7 of their 12 games over the recent period, as well as subbing in for 2 and being on the bench for 1. He did miss 2 matches. That was the first 2, and that was due to injuries. So Mikhail, I'm not sure how to say it, Sadilek, a definite candidate. Lucas Sadilek, on the other hand, is only a possible candidate. He's 28 years old and is new to the team since 2023 with just 3 caps, so a bit of a late joiner there. He plays for Sparta Prague in Czech Republic since 2022, and he got his first appearance in March of 2023. Didn't start any games, but was subbed in for 3 and on the bench for 4. He was injured for 2 and then not selected for the last 2 matches. So that's Lucas Sadilek, just a possible candidate. Petr Sevcik is only 30 years old, and he was I think I mentioned before. So in the Euro Cup and not appearing since March 2023. I'll skip those. I won't repeat what I said about those players who are off the team. Rather, I will go back and look at the summary of the positions here. So this one is fairly simple. Thomas Souček is always one of the 2 players in the position, and as we said, it's always a 2-man position. Alex Kral was his partner in 3 of the first 5 games, but it increasingly became Mikhail Sadilek partnering Souček. And Krekji got 1 start in the second last game. Krekji, we moved to central defense because he had played more there, but did play in his designated position once at least. Okay, so that is the central midfield. We move on to left midfielder and right midfielder. Those positions are actually only used in the 4-4-3 formation. Sorry, that should be a 4-3-3 formation, which the Czech Republic did not employ during this period. However, we do have a couple of candidates coded here, and both of them are off the squad. Jaromir Zermhal started one game during the period, but he wasn't selected for the last 8 matches. And Jacob Jankto, who we mentioned at the beginning, who got into trouble for refusing to take a breathalyzer. That actually doesn't seem to have much to do with the reason he's off the squad. He was a starter in the World Cup and last appeared in June 2022. That trouble with the breathalyzer thing was in April 2023, so he hadn't been selected for almost a year when that happened. Anyway, both of those players seemingly off the squad, and the only players we have here. Any other players that are coded this way, if they have been starting, we move them to where they've been starting. So we move on to attacking midfielders, and we look at the left side first. So let's just talk about the position of left and right attackers. It's kind of our own organizational system. And for some teams, it can be anywhere from a left winger to a left attacking midfielder to a left forward. But for Czech Republic, it actually usually is a left attacking midfielder. And that's true on the right side too. However, we notice that in the 3-4-1-2 formation, which should have 2 forwards, it was usually a left attacking player and to a lesser degree a right attacking player. So we're kind of adding that into this position. Okay, and the players we have, first of all, on the left side are Adam Hlozek. Kind of a bit versatile, actually, because he plays on the right and in the center, and even as a forward once. He's coded as an attacking midfielder, and he did start there a couple of times, but more than off, predominantly he's been on the left. Or he's played most of his games on the left. We have left winger Lucas Provod, but we've moved him to attacking midfield, so just the reverse direction of Hlozek there. And we also have Jan Kuchta, who is coded as a forward and has played as a forward, but we've moved him here because he's played predominantly, as in most of his starts, here. So Kuchta is a possible candidate. I'm a bit surprised by that. I thought he was a bit more likely. And we have possible but unlikely Vasil Kuzej. And then off the squad, Jacob Pasek, another one of those veterans, not veterans, but experienced players, who was in the Euro 2020 squad, but last played in June 2022, Jacob Pasek. So let's look at the candidates, beginning with Adam Hlozek. And he's 21 years old, very young, and has 31 caps and 2 goals already since 2020. Also a good club affiliation with Bayer Leverkusen in Germany since 2022, and was selected for Euro 2020, actually just a substitute though in that tournament, but he's started more since. He started 7 of their 12 games over this period and subbed in for 4 others. I'm missing a game there, but you get the gist of it. So Adam Hlozek, a definite candidate. Next, we have Jan Kuchta, a possible candidate. He's 27 years old, with 20 caps and 3 goals since 2021, and he plays for Sparta Prague in Czech Republic. His second stint with them, he was at Lokomotiv Moscow in Russia before that. Kuchta has started 6 of their 12 games, subbed in for 2, and not selected for 4 others, including the last 3 matches. So that's it. Another player like Brabak in defence and Soufal, who are real staples on the team up until recently, and then missing the last 3 matches. So again, be interesting to see in June what becomes of them. Vasil Kuzes is 24 years old. He got his first cap in 2023, but sorry, he didn't start. He came in November 2023, subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 1, but not selected in March 2024. So unlikely. Possible though, and that is it. Let's look at the position itself then, and really a variety of players playing here, including forward Thomas Svankara, who we'll meet soon. Roughly speaking, though, it was Kuchta as the main player in the early going, and then Hozek kind of taking the position more at the end. But it's that's a simplification because we also have 3 other players with single starts in the position to kind of confuse us. So, and then there's the question of whether Kuchta will come back. So this position is fairly unclear. Okay, right attackers. I've once again put the labels in the wrong places, but I'm going to fix it quickly here. Worry not. Do not be confused, YouTube watchers. It is now correct. Okay, right attackers. We have no definite candidate, but a likely candidate in Vaclav Cerny. And we also have had Lucas Mazupust here, but we moved him to right defense, if you'll recall. And we have 2 possible candidates. The first is Thomas Shorey, and then we have Matej Jurasek, not to be confused with David Jurasek, who we met earlier. Okay, Vaclav Cerny is 26 years old, and he has 15 caps and a healthy 5 goals, so 33% scoring ratio. Cerny has been with the team since 2020 and is with Wolfsburg in Germany since 2023, and a couple of teams in the Netherlands. Before that, several teams actually, was not part of the Euro 2020 squad. Perhaps that no, that tournament didn't come too early because it was in 2021 and he was on the team since 2020, so just not selected there. There was a bit of an injury concern for him actually. Over the recent period, Cerny has started 5 of their 12 goals, and subbed in for 2 and on the bench for 3. However, he was not selected for the last 2 matches, so we're seeing a definite theme here. The possible candidate is Thomas Shorey. He's 29 years old, but fairly new to the team since 2023. He has 3 caps and 2 goals. He is with Victoria Pilsen in Czech Republic. And he got his first appearance in November 2023 and started 1 of their remaining 4 games. He subbed in for 2 and was on the bench for 1 other, so making a good inroad into the team. And he's actually coded as a forward, but we moved him here. Finally, Matej Jurasek. Also a possible candidate. He got his first appearance. No, wait, I got to give the bio on him. He's 21 years old, Matej Jurasek, and he has 1 cap since 2023. He got his first appearance right at the beginning of this period in March 2023 and actually didn't start any of the games. His single cap was when he was substituted into the last game under the new manager. Besides that, he was on the bench 3 times. And so he's a possible candidate, particularly because of that recent participation. All right, those are the candidates, and on the right side, we'll summarize the position. So Vaclav Cherny has the most appearances in this position, but that's less than half, only 5 starts. And then often it was a player in a single start, including 2 of the players we met on the left side, and returning veteran Patrick Schick in the last game. So we'll meet Schick soon as a forward. We'll also meet secondary striker Chitil, who had 2 starts. I should probably edit that out because I inadvertently swore, but I didn't. I didn't really. Chitil had 2 starts on this side. Okay, central attackers. Let's go. By talking about the position. So central attacking midfield, the position is actually used about half of the time. In the 3-2-2-2-1, though, we consider it a left attack or right attack position. And so it's really just in the, it's really just in the 4-2-3-1. That we have this position, and that is used 25% of the time. But it's also used in the 3-4-2-1. So anyway, it's about half the time. I shouldn't dwell on it too much. The candidates are Adam Hlozak, actually coded as an attacking midfielder, but we moved him to left attacker. So here we have Lucas Provod as our first candidate. He's actually coded as a left winger, and we moved him here. So he's a definite candidate. Andre Linger, a possible candidate. No, sorry, a likely candidate. And then 2 possible candidates, Antonin Barak and Pavel Sulk. And then we have a player seemingly off the squad in Jan Matusek. And I'll just dispense with him here. He did start in this period in June 2023. In fact, that was his first appearance. He was subbed in for the first 2 games and not selected for 8, including the last 2 for which he was injured. So it doesn't look like he will be a candidate here, but we'll talk about it more if he is selected. Let's talk about our definite candidate, Lucas Provod. And he's 27 years old, 18 caps and 2 goals since 2020, playing for Slavia Prague in Czech Republic since 2020. Not a consideration for Euro 2020, even though he was on the squad by that time. I mean, kind of had appeared for the squad. Over the recent period, Provod has started only 4 of their 12 games, but he was subbed in for 6 of them, and the only 2 he missed were due to injury in the first 2 matches. So we consider him a definite candidate for selection at least, but not necessarily as a starter, and actually probably not a starter. Okay, next we have likely candidate Andre Linger, and he is 25 years old with 13 caps since 2022 for the national team. No goals for him. He plays for Slavia Prague in Czech Republic since 2020, but actually has been on loan to Feyenoord in the Netherlands since 2023. Linger started only 1 of their 12 games over this period, but he was subbed in for 7 and on the bench for 2 others, so a likely candidate. Next, we have Antonin Barak, a possible candidate. He's 29 years old, and he has 39 caps and 10 goals since 2016, and he plays for Fiorentina in Italy. He was a sub in the 2020 Euro Cup, and gained a starting position for games 4 and 5 there. Actually, that's probably, yes, 4 and 5. They reached the quarterfinals where they fell to Denmark. Barak, so you would think with all of that, those stats I've given, he would be close to being a starter. He's not in this period. Started only 2 of their 12 games and subbed in for 2, and he wasn't selected for um, 8 matches. So basically, he was active in the first 2 games and the last 2 games. So perhaps the new manager bringing him back into the fold here. Antonin Barak, though, just a possible candidate. Next, Pavel Suk. He's 24 years old and plays for Victoria Plzeň in Czech Republic since 2017. So became a professional when he was 17. For the national team, he got his first appearance just this year in March of 2024, and he started one of the 2 remaining games and was on the bench for the one other. So one of the many players, or several players we've seen here, brought in by the new management, by the new manager, and under consideration, it seems. Okay, those are the candidates, or the players in the attacking midfield position. But as we said, the position's only used about half the time. In the first half of the period, it was used twice, and it was Adam Hlozek, who we have as a left attacker, but really he's pretty versatile. And he was stationed here twice. In the last 5 games, this position was also used, and it was Provod here who started 3 times, and then Linger and Barak, both of whom we met here, starting 1 time each. I think it was Barak in the last game there. Yeah, it was. All right, that is it for the midfield. We move on to forwards, and we actually do have a secondary striker to talk about. So let's just talk about him. It is Mojmir Chittel, the player who is responsible for my having inadvertently sworn earlier. And Chittel is 25 years old, and he has 12 caps and 4 goals since 2022. And plays for Slavia Prague in Czech Republic since 2023. He's always played in Czech Republic from 7 years old when he first joined a youth team. Chittel earned his first cap before this period began, just before in November 2022. But since the start of 2023, he started 5 of their 12 games, as well as subbing in for 5, and was on the bench for 1, and just 1 match that he wasn't selected for. So Mojmir Chittel, a definite candidate here. And a bit versatile. I think we saw him as a right attacker. Mostly, though, he's playing as a forward, which is why we've left him until now. Let's summarize the position of forward before we meet the candidates coded as forwards. So usually it's a 1-man position. But as we said earlier, in the 3-4-1-2 formation, we often saw a left attacker and a right attacker in those cases. So we're not going to see a lot of forwards being used here, actually. But let's look at the candidates that we do have. We have Patrick Schick, the excellent player in Euro 2020 who won the Silver Boot Award and scored a lovely goal from his own half, Patrick Schick. But an interesting bio here over the recent period. So we'll talk about that when we introduce him. We have Jan Kuchta. He is coded as a forward, but we talked about him as a left attacker. We have Thomas Svankara, who we saw in other positions, but we're going to talk about him in his coded position as a forward. He's a possible candidate here. And I'll just say here, he got 4 starts over the period in 4 different positions. He was a left attacking midfield, a right attacking midfield, a left forward, and a centre forward. So Kvankera, a bit difficult to pin down here, a possible candidate. We've moved Thomas Chori, also coded as a forward. We moved him to right attacker. We have Vaclav Jureka as a possible but unlikely candidate. And then some of the players we talked about at the beginning, kind of semi-veterans who are off the team, most of them or all of them appearing in Euro 2020, and all of them with 25 or more caps, who are off the team since. So it's basically a list here: Thomas Peckhart, Michael Kremenchik, and Matej Vidra. All of those were forwards, no longer with the team. And so we actually do see there's a bit they're a bit lacking in the forward position. They do have Patrick Schick. He's 28 years old, and he has 37 caps and 18 goals since 2016. So actually doesn't play a lot, but he scores a lot when he plays, over or just about 50% scoring ratio, which is very good. Schick plays for Bayer Leverkusen in Germany since 2020 and was with Roma before that, Roma in Italy, and not part of the squad in Euro 2016, selected for the preliminary squad there, but not making the final cut. But as we saw in Euro 2020, he was excellent. He was a starter in that game, scored 5 of their 6 goals. In World Cup 2022 qualifying, he scored only 2 of their goals and got their only red card of the campaign, and hasn't been doing so well. In fact, he was off the team for a year and a half up until his return in March 2024, and then we saw he started 2 of the last games. At least we saw him starting as an attacking midfielder in one of them, and we'll see here that he starts as a forward in the other. So Patrick Schick back on the team. The next candidate is the possible Thomas Kvankara, and he's the one who's played 4 games in 4 different positions. He's 23 years old and has been with the Czech Republic since 2023 with 6 caps and 1 goal. He plays for Borussia Mönchengladbach in Germany since 2023, and he got his first appearance right at the beginning of this period in March 2023, started 4 games as we saw, and also subbed in for 2 and was on the bench for 2. But he wasn't selected for the last match there, so a bit of a question mark around Kvankara, so we have him as a possible candidate. And we also have Vaclav Jureka as a possible but unlikely candidate. He actually started 2 games during the period here and subbed in for 2 and was on the bench for 2. However, he was not selected for the last 4 matches, but we don't put him in that category of veterans who have gone missing because he only has 9 caps for the national team. Okay, let's summarize the position of forward then. In fact, it's mostly players we've already met, many of them playing out of position, and none of them more than twice, except for our secondary striker, Chitil, who has 3 starts in the position. Hlozek, Kuchta, and Kvankara all appear once, only once, as does Patrick Schick in the second last game. So, well, if Schick is back, I wouldn't be surprised if he was the main candidate, but certainly they haven't settled on one over this period. Okay, so let's go to section 3, closing. And, well, I've been saying it throughout the thing, the introduction of the players and even at the beginning, but we have an awful lot of experienced players not making this, not on the squad. Not only those who seem to have dropped off the squad over the last 4 years and who haven't played for a year or more, but in very recent times we've seen some of their experienced players missing for the last 3 games. So it's really a bit alarming. There's a new manager in place just for the March game, so for the last 2 games, and he has been trying out a lot of new players, which is quite exciting. He's not the reason, though, it seems, that those veterans left, because some of them weren't there for the November games. So we really got to keep an eye on the June games to see if they come back into the fold or if they're gone, like so many other experienced players from the team. So total rebuilding time for Czech Republic, really. And let's go back over the list we created here and see if we can nominate any definite starters. My guess is we won't be able to cite many. Anyway, one of them will be Ivan Hasek, the manager of the team. That won't be changed before the tournament. Goalkeepers, it's absolutely up in the air as to who it will be. I think Stanek is the most likely at this point, but far from even highlighting as a probable candidate there. So in defense, Thomas Holish, we do think he will be a starter. He's actually a right back by his coding, but has been playing in central defense. So we might not necessarily see him in central defense, but I think we will see him. He's the only candidate, though, among the many central defenders we looked at who looks like a starter. So we go to the left back position. David Jurasek is the most likely candidate here, but he started about half of the games there, so we can't nominate him as a likely starter. We have a couple of other candidates who have been coming in. On the right side, it's kind of the same. We had Vladimir Šufal, who looked like had a firm grip on the position in the first half of 2023. But as we said, he's been off the team for the last 3 games. He and a few other players like him. And so we obviously can't nominate him. In fact, we pushed him down to a possible position. So much doubt we have about that situation. So nobody on the right side either. David Dudera hasn't played enough for us to nominate him, but he does play on both sides, which could improve his chances of being a starter, but we're far from predicting it. In central defense, we do have one player who we can confidently say will be a starter. That's Thomas Souček. So important to him, and they'll be grateful that they didn't lose him, as they've lost so many veterans over the last few matches and few years. Over in central midfield, Michael Sadilek has been Souček's recent partner, but really hasn't started enough for us to say he is definite. So we'll highlight him in blue as the probable partner. But again, it's a new manager, so we can't be too sure about anything. On the left attacking end of the field, we have Adam Hozak, who's actually an attacking midfielder, but who has been playing more on the left. He's a bit versatile, so I'm going to nominate him as a starter because he might. I think he's looks like he's going to start in some position. We've seen him as a forward and as a central attacker. Having said that, he did start only 7 of the 12 games, so I'm not that confident about it, but I think he will. Over on the right, though, it's far less clear, and here we have another candidate, Vaclav Černý, who seemed to have the position and then hasn't been selected for the last 2 matches, so we're not sure. On the right, it's very fuzzy over here with several players playing at just one time. Central attacking midfield, we don't have any candidate who looks there, and they only use that position about half the time. So no definite starters there. In the forward line, Mojmir Chittle has had 5 starts, 3 of them as a forward. He's a definite candidate to make the squad, but not enough starts for us to think that he will be a definite starter. Patrick Schick, who had such a fantastic 2020 Euro Cup, was actually off the team and is only back for the last 2 games in March. So he did start both of those, and I suspect he'll be a starter. But we don't have enough evidence behind that to really highlight him here. So, as I suspected, very few players who we can really confidently say are starters, and those June games will be very important to see what conclusions the manager comes to. Quick review of injuries here. We have really just one, and it's a player who we consider to be off the squad anyway. Jacob Jugas has not played for the last 6 matches, and it's not, well, he was injured for the last 2 of those matches, but he was, not even really a candidate here. Anyway, he's out with torn knee ligaments. That injury was in mid-December 2023, so he's had a long time to recover. His return date is unknown now, but it wouldn't surprise if he's fit. Probably a bigger issue for him is whether he just will be selected because his history with the national team is not that deep. So anyway, I think more because of that, he is not really a candidate. Okay, that's it. We'll take another look at their injury situation when we get to part 2, and that's actually not that long from now. In part 2, we're going to do it when the squad lists are released, and we know what the final squad will be. So at that time, we'll look at any notable, we'll look at who's selected, and we will marvel at any notable non-selections. Wow, that likely player didn't make it, or he was our definite candidate and he's not on it. Or we will marvel at any surprise inclusions, including any new candidates they bring in. And we saw that the manager brought in quite a few new ones for the March game. So I wouldn't at all be surprised to see new ones in June too, because Czech Republic is going through a stage of rejuvenation. Okay, well, all that to come, and I hope you join us for part 2. We would like to thank Mike Tripak, Big Sound Music, and Pixabay for the wonderful background music called Dance 90s accompanying this mediacast.